Welcome to Dive Deep. I'm your host, Caleb Swartz. Our goal here at Dive Deep is transformation. We aim to provide spiritually motivating and challenging conversation that compels you to action. And if you're new, welcome. And if you're a longtime listener, thanks for checking in with us again. Pastor Arlie, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So glad to have you. And as we kind of wrapped up the final hours on the cross, I mean, it again, just a very emotionally charged message. The description of medically what would have gone on, the understanding of the actual process, I think it weighs really heavy. And yet, woven into the midst of the suffering of Christ are a few of these touch points. It feels like there's, little stories happening throughout the whole entire thing. One of which, just this whole concept of giving Mary to John and not James. I guess we can assume James was there. Did we know that or not know that?
We don't know that. We don't know that he was at the cross. We don't know that at all. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't be if your brother, half-brother, were in that. I mean, although he would have grown up with him, so he would have perceived him as full brother.
Yeah, I wonder how the parents handled that one.
Yeah. I don't understand why you wouldn't be there. Like if your brother were dying.
Yeah.
But
even still, he makes a point, Jesus makes a point to make it official between Mary and John, kind of like a deathbed wish.
Oh, yeah.
Is there more to this story? What are your thoughts? How have you imagined that this might have played out in James's life? Because, and let me give you some context. So we've got James not being a follower of Jesus through his whole ministry.
Right.
Yet, several decades later, writes the letter, James, where it's so charged and so passion-filled.
And so full of practical, you got to do it to believe it.
Right.
I mean, now put that in the context that he didn't believe before.
Mm-hmm.
But now he's at a point when he writes this that show me your faith by what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, it reinforces the fact that he didn't have faith to do it before.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
what do you think a transformation would have been like for James from, crucifixion to decades later?
I mean, I'm thinking it happened after the resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that, he appeared to all of these people, and people were saying, hey, have you seen Jesus? I mean, 515.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen Jesus? James certainly had to be in the know.
Right.
And wow, you would think at that point, that was real. Everything that was said was real. Those miracles really did happen. So I don't know if James was home working in the wood shop. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know, trying to provide a living for his family.
Right.
I don't know. Mm-hmm. But it had to be interesting when you find out, wait a minute, my cousin now is taking care of my mom.
Right.
And Jesus is the one that did that? Obviously, writing the book of James, he's over it.
That's what you think, yeah. I mean, it seems that way.
He's over it. It's all good now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting dynamic, and of course, a character development that happens kind of in the undertow of the New Testament, and it's similar to the Roman soldiers too,
or the thieves on the cross.
Oh, yeah.
At one point, like that 6-hour hanging that was going on, like at one point, both of them were anti. And then one swayed over to recognize Jesus for who he was. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there was transitions that were happening all over the place. And I guess, even knowing that part of his family weren't supportive, I guess that really speaks to all of us as well, because all of us have family members who are not supportive of what we believe.
Absolutely.
And to know Jesus faced that too. Like, what didn't he face that we face? And when you think about that, it's like, wow, Yeah. Yep. I get it.
Yeah.
So, maybe that's part of the process of discovering how God's going to work.
It's amazing to think that God would have allowed family strife within Jesus' own immediate family just to allow him to better identify, or us to better identify with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because all part of the plan.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. And then you have other characters like the soldiers, not just the thieves on the cross, but the soldiers. And I mean, that whole bit about the sponge, oh my goodness. Not only, did he take on the filth of our sin, but he took on our literal filth in that process.
The humiliation
Right.
was as much a part of the situation as torture.
Yeah.
And that's why, the Romans were masters in torture. They knew exactly how to take somebody to the ultimate limit before they died, just to keep them alive, but to torture them that much. And then, like, a big part of crucifixion was really humiliation. How can we humiliate this person? So hanging naked before the world obviously is completely humiliating. You think about even like before all the women that were present, all the people that were apart. So that had to be awful. But then add to that. And when we were in Israel, that's what our tour guide talked about and explained to us. And it was just, he said, don't know for sure, but we do know this, that's where sponges were used for. That was their purpose. And we were like,
And the sour wine that they gave them, I know that's the same sour wine that Boaz would have been given his workers. Sour wine, I had researched this one time. Sour wine was an invigorating drink, an energizing drink. That's what workers used to refresh themselves. So the fact that they were giving him sour wine towards the end of his crucifixion would have only been to
prolong his torture,
to bring him back to senses, to more feel it.
Yep.
And it just, and you had said at the end of it, the Roman soldiers admit this was not an ordinary man. And you wonder, how much of that was changed.
And you wonder when the turning point was.
Right.
Was it when it turned dark? Was it his response that he kept thinking about people even while he was suffering? Was it that, all those things like of how, he died, and what he experienced, was it the physical miracles that were happening around, or somehow like he was touched by how the support was? And I don't know.
Yeah.
You wonder when it all started to click and connect for him.
Yeah, because like you said, they were masters of torture. So these soldiers must have seen, I'd guess, tons and tons, maybe hundreds of crucifixions.
Right.
And just something about this process was different.
Yep.
And they could see it. And the crowd fascinated me too. I'm curious of your thoughts. You said that they went home in deep sorrow. What do you think the crowd thought would happen? Were they looking for a miracle? Did they not get the satisfaction in his death they were looking for, or did they really have a change of heart?
I think that whole line, deep sorrow from Scripture, I think this year is the first year I thought about that. I don't know that I thought about it before, and I do think that they were kind of bloodthirsty. We want to see a certain kind of thing, and we want victory in this. But then the way it came and all that happened, I think it took the joy out of it for them. And they were like, and they went home sorrowful. So when you think about that, you think, wow, well, what would have been the turning point for them? Where would it have been? Was it, the earthquake? Was it the darkness for 3 hours? I don't think they saw the graveyards open up right then, but would have been pretty interesting, as they would have witnessed a lot of things. But I think somehow, I think it's true for a lot of people. What you think is going to bring satisfaction, so many times it doesn't. You achieve it, you reach it, you're there, and it just doesn't meet the need that you were hoping it would meet.
Yeah.
Because only God can meet that need
Right.
inside of us.
Yeah. Isn't that a deep-rooted? I mean, it's lust of the flesh. Like you want something, you think it's going to make you content or satisfied, but it's not.
Right.
And so you just keep going after this material stuff, and it never soothes that need.
No. Nope.
Yeah.
And you go deeper, and it's still not there.
Right. And then, we have another group of people that are a part of the crucifixion that are at the cross, and those are his followers. And, clearly, and you ask the question, where would you be? Would you be willing to stand at the cross? And so clearly you've thought about this. What do you think was going through someone's mind as they were deciding whether to be there or not be there? Because we see a split. Some people think should be there or not.
Yeah.
And then those who we would go, wow, they were there.
Yeah, because where are the rest of the disciples? I mean, they'd seen miracles. They'd seen Jesus feed, 5,000. They had seen, on 2 different occasions, massive amounts of people that he just kind of like produced all this food. They saw people like who were blind could see, and deaf could hear, and lame could walk. And I mean, they'd seen all those things. So where were they at the time of need? And realistically, they had to be so fearful of losing their life. And, I don't want to be judgmental or critical. I hope that doesn't come across that way. But this pandemic has really created such fear in so many people, including believers, who, I'm not saying we throw, caution to the wind, but we have to ultimately know that God is the only one who is in control of my life. My coming and my going, he's in all of that. He had a plan for me. I wasn't an accident, and I came on purpose and on plan, and I'm not going out of here before he wants me, no matter how he chooses to use that. So I just have to trust him no matter what. And I think that's what happened in the believers of that time. Fear just controlled them. They feared for their lives. They feared for identifying with this Jesus publicly now. I mean, they weren't so popular before, and it was a little testy, but never to this degree. And so they were hidden behind closed doors, afraid of what was going to happen. And, I just think that we as believers have to be careful not to let fear control us, no matter what it is, no matter what is a part of our future or part of decisions. And I think that was where, that big crowd separated. And Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus, both up till this point, were secret followers.
Right. And this was their moment, though.
This was their moment. And they said, all right, I don't care who knows. I don't care what I lose. Maybe I'll lose my position. Maybe I'll lose my reputation. Maybe I'll lose money. Who knows? I'm choosing Jesus. And they did. And I just think that all of us come to those breakpoint moments in our lives where we're going to have to say, okay, who are you going to follow? I mean, are you willing, like, for whatever it costs to follow Jesus, even if no one else goes with you? Are you willing? And I say, yeah. There's disappointments, there are heartaches, there's difficulties, but Jesus is my first choice. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that insight, that encouragement to stand for the cross.
It's a heavy time. It's a heavy thing to think about.
But it's so worth it.
Amen. Yeah.
Thanks for spending some time with us today on CWC Dive Deep. It's been so good to walk with you through deeper conversation in our current series. And we here at CWC are excited to celebrate Easter with you next week. If you want to prepare your heart and mind during Holy Week in a unique way, we encourage you to go back and listen to each podcast in the last 24 series leading up to Good Friday. You can check those out at cwc.life/dive-deep. Have a great week.